All right, we're here with GateWay Garlic with Mark Brown, the founder of the organization, and we've got all these people here. We've essentially taken mulch from the local. Where is it? Where is it?
It actually comes out of Carondelet Park. It's gathered. It's leaf mulch that they compost for 3 to 5 years, and then they put out free for the people to take.
And then we got some horse manure from somebody, right?
We got some horse manure, and we've been actually kittying a lot of manures here, 5 and 10-year-old horse manure, along with rabbit manure, chicken manure. And so basically what we're doing is engineering soil. The land that's here is actually pretty poor. It's almost all clay with a lot of brick in it. So we're basically building up our soil here.
We're creating it, right?
Yes, we are creating soil.
So
we are creating farmland is what we're doing.
So what's the mix? Because we're taking all these burlap sacks and we're putting like what, 50-50, half mulch, half manure?
Yes, yeah, roughly, yes.
Okay.
It's probably closer to about 30, 35, 65.
Mulch.
30, 70 with the primary ingredient being the broken down mulch.
Okay. And we were lucky enough to get all these volunteers. We wanted to get these guys because this is what made it happen so quickly. We did this in one afternoon basically, and it's because we've got 100 kids from, what is it, St. Louis University?
SLU, yes.
Okay. Yeah. And we'll be planting the seedlings, and we'll hopefully have it done in one day. And this is what, an urban garden? It's designed to...
This is an urban farm. This is an urban permaculture farm. The site here is on a slope.
Yeah, see that?
And so we couldn't afford to lose the nutrients, especially after all the hard work we've been putting in here. So the berms are designed to work with nature and follow the contours of the terrain so that erosion is lessened and the nutrient runoff, if you can get a shot of the street here, It is a slope and we are on a hill in a sense.
Yeah, this is pretty steep. I wouldn't say it's 45 degrees. I'd say it's maybe 30. But it's pretty steep.
But the way the berms are in arrangement to the way it floods, the torrential flow of water is softened. And the water actually has to penetrate through the bag berms to make it to the next bag berm.
So it's basically 45 degrees, isn't it? Because it's coming from that direction, right?
Yes.
So I'll get a shot of it later, and we can show how it's basically. No, I should say 90 degrees. 90 degrees.
Yeah, it's all of these woods up here, and some of these homes, they basically have been dumping their water off into the woods, and the water just runs right through here. So.
Well, that's good in a way, though. Now that you have it basically terraced, right?
Yes.
Would you call it terraced?
I would definitely call this terraced. Not only that is the fact that she's going to be using less water to garden this because of this natural.
Yeah.
There's, it's going to be naturally watered. The bags themselves are going to hold a lot of that moisture, and then of course underneath, the plant roots won't stop at this ground. They will grow through the bag and tap into the ground that's underneath. That also, as well, is because it's all covered, that's going to halt evaporation, and it's going to operate almost like a wicking bed in a terraced format.
Yeah, she won't have to fertilize it all the first year.
No.
How many years do you think till she's going to have to use fertilizer? Depending on the plant, right?
Probably in about 2 years, maybe 3 years, she'll begin to start amending. But in reality, after maybe 2 years, you should begin to amend your soil. It depends on your crops, too. Some crops will literally rob these nutrients out, and you want to put them back.
Which ones are those? Which are the worst?
All the cereal crops are.
Okay, like corn and stuff?
Corn, your grains, they literally rob it out. Garlic is another one. If you get a nice shot, she's got some garlic growing back out there.
Oh, yeah, those are the plants that were planted before we were even here.
Yeah, that's all garlic. That's actually a heritage garlic that we gave her out of our sustainability festival, St. Louis Garlic Fest.
Do you just plant a little clove from a garlic?
Yep.
And just
in a sense, they're clones.
But you can go to the store and buy a head of garlic, break it up into the individual pieces and plant them, and they all grow.
Really? Because are they at the top of the hill for a reason? Do they have good roots or anything, or you just did it?
That was just we just put a maca berm just to see how the contour was going to fly.
Okay.
It was just a little
It's
piece.
probably planted because it's one of the early crops.
Yes.
Okay, so you plant garlic earlier in the year.
Garlic is actually planted usually in the fall time, about September.
Oh, really?
October.
Okay.
And then you'll harvest it come, although these were planted late, they got in about December. She'll still harvest them probably about early to mid-July.
Okay. I don't know if you can see that, but he's going to put in like terraces.
This is a pretty large space.
Yeah, this is not bad. I would say, what, a half acre, a third of an acre?
Maybe a half. I have no idea how much.
Yeah, these kids have done a great job. This would have taken who knows how many days.
Oh my God!
If we didn't have
for just a family,
Yeah.
say do, you're talking 2 weeks easy.
Yeah.
That's working sun up to sundown.
Because I don't know if we have 100 volunteers, but we got more than 50.
Pretty close to it.
I think there's 100.
Oh no! Now that I look at it, there's probably like 60 or 70 maybe. But that's better than usual. Well, with a plot this size, if you use the right techniques, you could probably use a space this size to sustain the needs of their produce and vegetables for 50 families.
But that's just produce, right? They couldn't really live on that.
No, but I mean that's only because of people's general diets.
Okay.
They like eating meat and stuff like that.
Well, let's say
dairy products and
we'll say you're somebody like me and you try to avoid meat, and you planted a bunch of different crops. How many people do you think this could feed? Say you're somebody who's very active like me.
somebody that's just depending on this.
Yeah, and say you're somebody like me who's pretty active. You like to bike every day. You like to work out.
Oh wow, it's not that much different, really. I'd say 40 families.
Really? I can't. I mean, this is only about a third of an acre, a half an acre.
Yeah, but you can grow a lot of stuff in a confined space.
Yeah, like corn. Like I'd want a lot of corn.
Yeah.
And I want all my little
now
spices.
That takes up a little bit more room.
Yeah,
But if you plant, for instance, you can plant 2 rows of corn, but if you like squash or cucumbers or something
Plant
like
them
that,
in between.
you plant them in between and use the stalks as poles to let them climb it.
Okay, because they don't need a lot of light, the squash and stuff.
And plus the leaves, which are like real big, they cover the ground around the corn to keep the weeds from growing.
and keep the moisture in
And
too.
keep the moisture in, that's right.
So, because I'd want to have, I guess I'd have a row of corn every 5-10 feet, because I'd want to have a lot of corn.
Well, you'd probably grow it all in the same space because corn stalks are kind of weak and you need as many of them together as you can to keep them from blowing over in a storm.
Can you kind of put T-poles up on a fence and kind of keep them up that way? Put wire between the
But
T-pole?
it's actually not really.
It's not going to work.
I mean, it's a lot more work than you get reward for.
Because it's been breaking my heart. I love corn when it's in season, and I don't want to eat that GMO corn.
Right.
You know, because I'll feed it. I raise a bunch of different animals.
There are numerous places available where you can get heirloom variety of seeds, which is not GMO. And
What's that? That's a website on the net?
yeah, there's lots of them.
Well, say some. Which ones? Where would you get your seeds if you were ordering?
I get mine from a place in California called JL Hudson Seedsman.
Okay.
And that's all they deal with is heirloom variety vegetables. None of them have ever been profitized, I guess you'd say.
What's heirloom mean? It's just
It
handed
just
down?
means varieties that have been grown for years and years and years and passed down from one family to the next. To
Oh,
the
okay.
next.
Yeah, because that's the way to go.
Never commercialized.
Because the only corn seeds I have that I know are pure are the ones I got from Mark when we were at a different meeting.
Right.
And I want to plant those in my backyard. And do you have to give them a lot of manure? Do you have to dig in for the corn?
I don't think they're any different as far as what the conditions are to grow than any other ones are.
Okay, because I don't know too much
They
about
actually
that.
are probably hardier than the general seed that you buy in the store.
Because that's why I'm here. I want to learn how to do this.
Yeah.
You know.
And when you're talking about corn specifically, most people will grow it all in one row. One plant, one plant, one plant, one plant. Well, if you plant 4 in a space this big, they not only hold themselves up better, but you can grow a lot more corn in the same space.
Oh, really?
That's what I was talking about. In a space like this, you could take 3 of the rows, berm rows, and grow corn for 25, 50 people
Really?
a year,
Because I want to do that this year.
depending on the variety and what kind of yield that you get from it.
Because I want to do that this year. So you recommend if I'm doing this in my backyard and I'll dig a hole, right? And I'll put the right soil in.
Right.
So plant 4 seeds together, right?
Yeah, in a little space like, say, just like that. You'll plant one there, one there, one there, and one there, and then the roots are about that big around at the base of the stalk, so they won't be interfering with each other. But imagine this far apart, 4 plants all the way down that row, and all the way down that row.
So every 4 feet, every 5 feet?
Oh no, you space them 2 feet apart.
Okay.
3 maybe. It depends on how much room you've got, how much you really want to grow. But
okay, so after corn, what core crops would you plant? You know, if you let's say there's a collapse in the dollar, and you can't get food anywhere, and you've made it through the bottleneck, and now you want to start planting crops because you're going to need to eat. You're running out of canned food. What would you plant?
Well, you'd have to probably decide not only what you like, but in that sort of situation, you're going to want to grow stuff that is high in nutritional value.
Mm-hmm. That's why I like corn, right?
Corn, squash, beans. Try to stay away from the grains because they take too much room and they're too much to process. I mean, you got to grind flour and all that.
Yeah. You don't want to deal with grains really because they're not that nutritious anyway, right?
Not really. No.
So that's what. But like you said, beans. What kind of beans?
Well, any green beans are easy to grow because they grow up. Mm-hmm. You can get whole beans and then they don't take up any room. Or you can buy the bush variety and they only get this big and they produce lots of beans. But potatoes, beans, whatever vegetables you like, especially like squash and cucumbers and tomatoes and stuff like that, because they're all high in nutritional value and don't take up that much space.
Okay, and you don't want to really plant them in rows, do you? Or is that better?
Well, rows organize things better so that you can get,
you know what's what.
You don't really want your plants all just growing in a big pile.
Yeah.
So because each one of them uses a different kind of nutrient, and some of them fix nitrogen in the soil instead of taking it out.
Uh-huh.
So you kind of want to plant one that takes it out and one that fixes it kind of in the same place, so it leaves your soil the way it was originally.
Are there any like beans for soup? Like I like pork and beans. What kind of beans are those?
Those are just regular white beans, but I'm not exactly sure how they're grown because I've never done those myself.
Okay.
I grow green beans or soybeans.
Okay, soybeans, huh?
Yeah.
Now, soybeans, I heard that soy isn't really too good for you. I know a lot of vegetarian friends and they always had trouble being vegetarians because they were eating a lot of soy.
Yeah, well,
so,
it's kind of hard to digest from what I understand.
Yeah, I've heard that
I don't eat it myself.
I've heard there's a molecule in there that mimics estrogen, and it's really not good for you.
I have heard that. I don't
know if it's true, but
I can't say that that's true or not.
But I've always been lucky because I don't like soy. Right. I'll eat tofu and it's all right.
Green beans, in particular, are like I said. You can grow a lot of them in a small space, and they're very nutritious and they're very hardy.
What about the thin green beans? You know those little flat ones? Because I like those. I don't really like green beans, but.
I'm not familiar with that particular kind. So,
okay.
I don't know, but like, peas, that sort of stuff. Carrots are really good.
Yeah, I love a lot of carrots.
Yeah. And,
so,
and particularly any kind of root vegetable like potatoes or carrots or turnips or I can't really think of any other ones right offhand, but since they grow underground, you can plant them in between rows of like corn and you don't have any conflict.
Yeah, so you can grow twice as many in the same amount of space.
In the same amount of space.
What's a coniferous vegetable? Is that a plant that grows on the ground? I'm not sure. I'm just asking.
Coniferous, that usually refers to trees. And that's like pine trees because they have
no, I must be
holes.
pronouncing it wrong. But I've always heard Gary Null on the radio, and he's talking about some kind of coniferous vegetable, and I forgot what he's referring to.
I'm not sure what he means by that.
I'm probably mispronouncing it.
It could be.
Too many Van Halen concerts and I can't hear anymore. So we've got corn, we've got squash, we've got green beans. I like cantaloupe. Cantaloupe's good too.
Yep.
And we've got potatoes in the ground. We've got carrots in the ground.
Pumpkin would be good.
Pumpkin. They need a lot of water, don't they?
Well, they do need a lot of water, but in a space like this, that wouldn't be a problem. But they are extremely nutritious, and they can be used for a ton of things.
What about peppers? Because I love peppers.
Peppers are very good for you, and they grow quite well, and particularly like soil like this, it's kind of heavy in clay. But you can grow just about any kind of pepper that you can think of in this climate.
Because I hear they're really high in vitamin C, at least some of them.
And they're high in lots of vitamins. And they're high in stuff like capsaicin, which is really good for your joints and your blood and your heart. But we were talking about stuff that grows in the ground. Peanuts would be a really good thing.
Oh yeah, we want to have peanuts because
there's not a lot of vegetables that you can derive protein from. Which if you're going to be a vegetarian, you have to find a way to supply your protein needs. And there's not a whole lot of vegetables that do that. But peanuts is a very good.
Well, I love peanuts. I love peanut butter, and I probably eat too much of it. You know.
And well, yeah, because it's really fatty. But that's another thing that grows under the ground. So it's again something you can plant in between rows of other stuff.
What else we want in this garden? Onions?
Yeah, onions are really. You can use them in a lot of different ways because you can use the green parts of them as in salads or whatever, and it's not nearly as strong a flavor. But then the onions you can grow from this big to this big.
I love
and
onions.
You don't have to worry about pulling them out of the ground. They'll stay in the ground all winter long.
You know, I'll mix the onions with eggs and make some sweet egg salad with a little mayonnaise. And what else were we thinking of?
Well,
how about your herbs? I mean, condiments
herbs,
and stuff.
Well, it depends on what you like, but almost any of the cooking herbs that you can think of, basil, rosemary.
Basil? Would you put that on the edges or right in the garden?
I would probably use it around the edges because they don't take up much room and you don't have to plant that much of them to get what a person would need. You could plant one plant of just about any of them, and that would probably take care of your herb use for whatever you're going to use it for maybe a year.
What about green vegetables like lettuce, spinach, kale? Where would you put them? In a lot of sun?
Yeah, you'd have to put them in a lot of sun. But personally, I wouldn't grow a whole lot of that kind of stuff because it takes up a lot of room, and there's a very short window of time where it's useful because you can't grow it when it's too cold, you can't grow it when it's too hot. So the leaf vegetables, if I was going to grow them, it'd be kale and spinach, and that would probably be about it.
Can't you put like a little greenhouse over them or something?
Well, yeah, you can do that, but then you're talking about taking up more space.
Because I love kale, and I know how healthy it is.
Yeah, yeah,
so,
it's probably one of the best green leafy vegetables that you can.
Because I'll crisp it, I'll use my solar crispler. It's basically a mirror, and on top of it is a piece of glass, and I'll crisp it all summer.
You put a black cloth over the top of it?
No.
Well, that's the way I was taught, so that it doesn't burn anything.
Oh, well, I don't mind that, as long as it's crispy. Because I've heard you have to cook it to get the nutrients, so crisping is the best way to serve kale.
You may be right, but I would find that difficult to believe because almost everything that I know of, you can get more nutrients and minerals and stuff like that out of the raw version than you can out of the cook. Cooking takes stuff out.
Yeah, that's what I used to think too, but I listen to Gary Null a lot, and he recommends for certain vegetables that you want to cook them slightly, like mushrooms.
Sure some of them, yeah, you're right. Some of them probably are that way. I'm just not that familiar with them myself.
Well, who knows who's right, because you hear scientific reports and they're always wrong.
Yeah, there really is not a right. It just depends on your area, what you want to grow, what you like, and what your soil will support. Which really, your soil can be adapted to grow anything. It just depends on how much work you want to put into it.
True. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get all the work done today.
We're doing here. Exactly.
We're just trying to get it done today. We're lucky to have all these volunteers. And it's just amazing how much we've done in one day.
In one day, yep. Especially with no more trucks than we've got. And, well, the volunteers have made a major difference.
Because we started today at about 7 in the morning getting the mulch. Somebody had delivered the horse manure, I guess, the day before.
Yesterday, yeah, I believe.
And we had, there's 1 truckload, there's 2 truckloads, 3 truckloads, 4 truckloads. We had 5 truckloads, and we went back for a little more on the mulch. And it's looking good. I guess they're still not done.
We're still bagging up stuff.
We're waiting for the seed beds now. Look at these kids. Now some of them are still working. I'm amazed.
Well, they're young. And driven, apparently.